Hi. While I've been out campaigning over the last couple of weeks, I've heard the message again and again that people have so little faith in politicians and people who are standing for Parliament. They think they're all in it for themselves and that party political messages are just something that's so remote from here in Copeland, and it feels all wrong. Now, as I've had face-to-face conversations with people, I've seen their opinions change, but I can't have face-to-face conversations with everyone, so I wanted to use Facebook Live, and we've started tonight with absolutely no advertising or anything like that. So, because I'm quite worried about how this is going to work and trying to interact with people's comments. For a start here, I'm just going to try and shape this because the messages are coming in sideways, and that's really difficult to read, so you might see me going like this. They're just the introductory messages from Facebook Live. So, hi, I'm Rebecca, and I'm absolutely passionate about politics and about being the MP for Copeland. And I want people to see and deeply know that I'm not any different for that. I've always been someone who's been here in West Cumbria, just working hard for everyone and for our kids. Hang on, okay, I've got a message saying my camera is sideways. So, hang on. That's useful to know. It says that the phone is obviously meant to be in, it's not meant to be in landscape. I thought it was meant to be in landscape. Is that better, Michael? No reply from Michael. We'll give it a try. I'm probably upside down now. Yeah, okay. Good, thank you. So, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself if you're interested. I grew up in Newcastle, and I had, looking back now, it was a really interesting childhood. My dad was an economist, and he, this was in the 1970s and 1980s, which were really interesting economic times, and he did some really interesting things. He thought that economics was a subject that was leading people in the wrong direction because the rules had been written down long ago and people need to get experience in business. So he set up a degree course that he was really proud of, where people got a year in industry in the northeast. And we learned a lot from that. And he also was really involved in the setting up of Nissan in Sunderland, in the way that human resources were set up there. And he worked with the head of HR then, who came and lectured on his course. So I had that part of my childhood that was really interesting and I found totally fascinating. But we weren't well off, and we lived in Benton, on the edge of Benton. And, sorry, just comments coming in. And I ended up at a school in Benton in 1983 that was a very, very tough sing school. And I got really lucky. Hang on, I've got messages coming in saying that people have commented on my video, but it doesn't say what the comment is. So, sorry, I'll reply to those. I can't see them at the minute. Hopefully it'll become clear. And so I learned what it was like to be at a sing school, and I think probably the thing I learned most was that everyone ends up blaming themselves for the state they're in. And no, it's still popping with comments, and I can't see what they are. As a child, I blamed myself for the things that were going wrong, and the teachers did too. But this was 1983, and it was Tory policy, because they've been offering private school places for middle-class kids, for families, for votes, and suddenly all the middle-class families in that catchment area are gone, and the schools just collapsed, and it became hell on earth quite quickly. And I got lucky. I got out to go to school in Whitley Bay. Probably some of my friends from Whitley Bay are watching now. And I just got my head down and worked, and I did well in my exams, and all sorts of doors in life. Please don't phone me, anyone. And I got so lucky. I went to Cambridge, and I got really the opportunity to do anything. And all I wanted to do was to give back to society, because so many good things had been given to me, and I saw the contrast between what I'd been given and what other people who I'd left behind at the schools in Long-Benton and in other places had got. So, oh no, voicemail is going to keep ringing. I'm going to need some help with this. So I became a maths teacher because I felt if I went and worked in schools and challenge... Stop it! I'm a landline. No! Hang on, I'm going to take this. Les, I'm doing Facebook Live. I'm going to have to call you back. I'll talk to you later. Oh, where'd I got to?
You've got to become a maths teacher.
Yeah, so I thought, when people are good at their maths, they have a lot more self-confidence, and it really matters, and they get so many more opportunities in life. So that's what I decided to do. I did that for a long time in Copeland mainly. I would... If you're in Copeland and you're wondering if I was your maths teacher, I was Mrs. Teasdale then. I was Rebecca Teasdale in my first marriage, and I did my teacher training at Whitehaven School, and then I taught at Benny's for 6 years. I taught at Southfield, and then I went in as the last head of maths at Earnside when that was in special measures, Earnside and Cleator Moor, and had the privilege of working with the team then to turn that school around. And I really loved that job, and saw that through until Earnside School closed in 2008. And then I went to lecture in maths education at Manchester Metropolitan University, which was a joy, a real pleasure to do. And in that role, I got involved in national policy consultation on education policy, which is what lecturers in education often did, because they see a lot of different types of schools, and they see children across different ages in ways that teachers who are in one school don't see so much. And then Michael Gove happened. And all consultation was suddenly shut down. And I just looked at it, and he was telling everybody that they had to drain the swamp of all these experts in education who were self-interested and ignorant. And I was just looking at this. And he was coming up with all these ideas he'd written on the back of an envelope that were just shockingly bad. And there was no way to challenge it, because nobody was allowed to say anything anymore. And the only way to do that was to get involved in politics. So I looked at the different parties, and for me, the Lib Dems were the party that had people who really understood the connection between policy and what was going on in the classroom. So I decided to join and get involved and try and learn and try and help. And I think, like a lot of people here in Copeland, I was really pretty sceptical about politics. And it was such a contrast to what I expected. When I met people, I found all these people who were just really dedicated and brilliant and inspirational. And it was such a privilege and a pleasure to be around them. And I served on the National Committee of the Education Association for 3 years during the coalition government. And we worked really hard to try and rein in what Michael Gove was doing, and for all that we failed to do, I am so very sorry. And so politics inspires me. It kept me sane. It's a place where you can say things as they are, which you often can't do in your jobs. Okay, I'm just going to look at some of these comments.
Some of them are flashing up, so it's quite interesting if you...
Hello, if you do get elected, will it be possible to have an increase in cleaning the streets and keeping them clean? Well, yeah, I did that I'm a councillor here in Cockermouth, and that was when I got elected town councillor. It was the first thing people asked, because people were slipping over on Main Street. So I worked with the borough council and got the street deep cleaned, and we got a grit treatment to clean the sap off the trees and so on. So there are things that can be done. It depends what the particular issue is. You need to work first through your local council, and they should work in conjunction with the borough council. And if they're struggling, then they can come and talk to me, and I can get involved and try and help. So thanks for your question. If anyone else would like to send me some questions. The whole point of this is that I'm hoping to take questions live in real time. I'm going to do hopefully quite a lot of Facebook Live, often in the evenings, later on in the evenings when I'm back from a long day campaigning. We've been out in Millom today. It's just my shoulders are aching from all the driving down the twisty A595. It takes a toll, but I love being in Millom. Can you please come and be a good counsellor in Bolton? No, that's an easy answer. Love your passion. Good luck. Thank you, Paula. Really appreciate that. And thanks, Joel. There's a lot of comments coming through. Why did Leave win? Okay, that's a really interesting question, Ben. I was out on the streets campaigning during the referendum, and I'm just fascinated in what people think and why they think what they think. So instead of just sort of handing out leaflets and telling people what to think, I was asking people, how are you voting? And why are you voting the way that you're voting? So people voted Leave for quite a few different reasons. There are some people who are like Michael Gove and believe that if you get, it's the anarchic libertarian vein of politics. If you drain the swamp of all the experts, if you get rid of all the systems we've got, then everything will get better. And that's one strand of the Brexit view. And that's not how most people feel. But that's what we've ended up with. That is hard Brexit. And it's like, oh. But an awful lot of people voted Leave because they were really frustrated with the bureaucracy of the EU. And, you know, I was chatting to farmers who were sent on courses they felt they didn't need to go on, and people who felt that the markets didn't work fairly because it was difficult to get things changed, and that some of the legislation we had was intractable and frustrating. So quite a lot of people were voting out for that reason. Stop phoning me. And I can't stop voicemail phoning me. And then there were some people who just believed all the promises. They wanted the money for the NHS, and there was a lot of talk about how working auditions and such like would get better if it would all get better if we left. But that was never real, because they weren't being asked to compare with being in the EU, which is frustrating and has annoying bureaucracy and has inefficiencies, with any other system. It was like, if you get rid of the EU, everything will be fabulous, but you've still got to have a system for running things. It's still got to, you've still got to have trade standards and product standards and trade agreements and international agreements and so on. So it's just chaos. Next question. Oh, I'm going to leave that one for a while. I'm sure that we will come back to Brexit during these conversations, and we'll probably do an evening where I focus on it and try and get people to talk about it in more depth. But there's a little bit of an introduction. What's the situation in healthcare like in Copeland? Well, we've been put through a success regime consultation, which is a consultation associated with parts of the restructuring of the NHS, which is being rolled out in rural areas. It started in Copeland and North and West Cumbria, and it's going to roll on down to Devon and to Essex. And it has been absolutely horrendous, because it's just a process, a metropolitan rollout process being applied to rural areas where instead of the hospitals being 10 miles apart, they're 40 miles apart along twisty roads, and the same systems and processes don't work. So we've been consulting on getting rid of obstetric care in Copeland. Now, that will mean that to get to obstetric care, to get to a hospital where you can give birth, all the women in Copeland will have to drive between about, I think, 40 minutes minimum on the northeastern edge of Copeland, up to about an hour and 40 minutes in labour, which is unprecedented. If you want to see me talking more on this, go to YouTube and Google Rebecca Hansen Whitehaven Hospital and watch me talk about that in depth, because I could go on about this all night. How long have we been running? Not sure when to start this. I'm not sure. I was told I should do this for about 20 minutes. I didn't look at my watch when we started. So we are really concerned about that. And again, I will be coming back to that issue because it's a huge, huge issue here. What I'll try and do as this rolls on during the campaign, I will gather up questions and try and sort them a bit into topics and have nights when I focus on different topics. But the main point of tonight was just to have a go and get going with no publicity. So got a bit of a feel for it, and I've got to find a way to block calls but keep my internet running. So if anyone could tell me how to do that, that would be really useful. I think that's about the right time to sign off. We've got loads of great things coming tomorrow. Sal Brinton is coming up. We've got some really interesting session where she's meeting some of our top medics who've done some great innovation here. So really looking forward to that. And we've got a night out as well. So I won't be FaceTiming late tonight, but I'll try and do some tomorrow night. Try and do something in the afternoon after the main sessions. What questions have got we here? Do you think you can win in Copeland, or are you standing just to make a point against Labour? That's from Charlie Dring. Hello, Charlie. Yes, we think we can win in Copeland. We took this very cautiously and carefully at the beginning. We were looking to see how the Labour vote was lying because the Tories are the favourite here. And you may guess that I absolutely hate Tory education policy and NHS policy and quite a lot of their other policies at the minute, like hard Brexit. And I can't stand the thought of them winning. And if we'd had a really strong Labour campaign and a really strong Labour candidate, we may have got behind them. But unfortunately, reading the lie of the land, there just doesn't look like any way that Labour can win here. So going to take them on and fight the Tories and try and win to be a really decent MP for Copeland and be someone that people can trust and believe in and know that I will do their best for them. Do you think the voting age should be lower to 16? Well, that's an interesting one. Hi, Zane. I was in at Whitehaven Academy, which is another topic I'll be talking about one evening here. We've got a school with tremendous challenges at the minute. But I took Year 11 Assembly last Friday, and we asked them that question and had a bit of a chat about it. I was really interested. Most of them wanted they wanted the voting age to go down to 16. But a few didn't. There are a few that have said, I'm not ready. I just don't know enough about the world yet to make that decision. So on balance, I think it would be a good idea, because if we knew our 16-year-olds were going to vote, we would do a lot more in schools to get them ready for that situation. As a secondary school teacher, I used to take form groups through years 10 and 11 from when they were 14 to 16. And I love doing that because they grow up so much together, and I think it would be a really, really interesting to have that focus that you're going to be voting soon. So let's talk about the issues and help you learn to be ready to do that. So I think it's a good idea. Sorry, quite a few questions and comments have gone through, and I didn't see them, but I'll just have a look. Thoughts on LGBT rights. That's at the heart of Lib Dem philosophy about equality and lack of discrimination, and that for me just makes total and utter sense. It's kind of in my DNA. It's not even something I think about. So you'd have to ask me a more specific question. I should imagine you've got something specific on your mind. What's your opinion on the UK economy withstanding Brexit? Have you changed your opinion on it? I am extremely worried about the UK economy. There's all sorts of people saying, well, it's really strong, so that's an indication that Brexit is fine. And that just reminds me of Michael Gove after he decided to completely reform the curriculum in exams, going on about what a success it was and what a positive impact it was having on education for years, and claiming all this credit for it. It hadn't happened yet. And it's a disaster. And people saying, so everyone claimed that Brexit would be a disaster, and look, the economy is good at the minute, so you've all been proved wrong. Well, I never claimed that. It's really complicated. I have other reasons for opposing Brexit. And I don't like it's like a straw man argument that's what I was saying. It's not what I was saying. Given early... Yeah, there's Jack. Yeah, Tim did apologise for that and say he regretted that decision afterwards. 16-year-olds have a more balanced view of the world than most 50-year-olds. I know a lot of people around about 50 who are. I think 50 is a good age. You've got a tremendous amount of experience then, but and I'm not entirely sure about putting the world in the hands of our 16-year-olds. I think that's a bit of a stretch too. Thanks, Rick. Okay, I think it's time to stop because my throat's getting a bit tickly. I think I'm going to start coughing. So thank you all for joining me tonight, and I hope to see you again soon.